Welcome everybody, good morning, and this is one of my veggie beds. Good morning everybody and welcome. Today we're going to take our first look at some veggie beds that have not really been maintained. I guess we tried a hands-off approach, got some netting up, but I wanted to show you what it looks like without me trying to manage it beforehand, without any setup beforehand. One bed looks pretty good, but we'll look at the other ones. So this whole area has not really been maintained. About 3 weeks ago, we bought a bunch of extra plants from like Rural King and out in the back area where they were like almost dead. So we brought them back to life and we planted them. We covered everything with this netting. A lot of this is like honeyberry. There's random maple coming up. We got strawberries kind of around. But for annual veggies, we have this bed first, and we have whatever this is. I'm not very good at identifying veggie plants. I know this is a tomato. It looks like there's a couple of pretty decent plants in here, and I should probably think about finding out, should I be trimming these or maybe trellising them up or whatnot. I see a couple flowers here and there, and I wonder if this bed maybe is a little bit too narrow. But I don't know, it seems to be growing really well. Nothing's gotten to them. None of the bunny rabbits have hopped up and started eating them. Let's see if this whole idea was maybe more of a mistake than an ingenious way of planting. So we have a nasty thistle there. That can be cut out. The idea was that if we were to plant plants in here and leave it to its own devices, we could come in and kind of clear things out, but allow Creeping Charlie and some other grasses to grow. So I see a pretty happy kale, and I see what looks to be some sort of pea. I'm gonna have to look up what this plant is. I don't think it's a garden pea, but it's putting on pea-like structures here. But this is a kale here. A bed of, here's a straw, or here's a tomato. Let me show you what one of these beds looks like. Before I take the cover off, I had just pulled the cover off of this. I see a couple plants in there we'll get into. But we have a random maple, so I might actually trim that first and then take this cover off. So this approach to annual vegetable gardening might have been a bad idea as I stare into the sun. So we have a couple of beds here. I've just taken the covers off. We haven't even gone through the weed in about 3 weeks, and I'm not actually sure what we planted because they were like throwaway plants at the back of Rural King. So this is like a completely really unprepared, not really set up or thought out garden area. Okay, so mixed results, pretty poor results in this bed. This is like a dog fennel. Last year it was all this goose feet, which it is not turned into this year. I got like hog fennel. It might be even a sweet Sicily or a Queen Anne's lace. Apparently it's just a weed. I don't know if there's any medicinal properties, but instead of that goose feet, it's all become this. We do have the plantain in there, which is a plant, but we were trying to use that as kind of our wild card to help cover the soil, because one of the ideas was to actually trim it and then use these leaves to mulch the soil. So the plantain's done really well, but we didn't actually plant that. That was just a happy coincidence. However, a lot of our lettuces are doing kind of okay now that they're exposed to more sun. Yep, tastes like lettuce. We might be able to get even more out of that. Looks like we might have a tomato right here. And if I trim this plantain back a little bit more and mulch around that, maybe that will have enough time to become an adult and put on some choice tomatoes. Our next bed is a little bit better because a lot less stuff popped up on its own. So that side was all plantain. We had our original kales, and that seems to be doing all right. And I'm not quite sure what this is going to be, but I think I'm going to keep the nets off of these because I think it gets enough sun, but it also seems like it doesn't get enough sun. And because I put the nets on, I've waited way too long to actually look at these beds. You know what I mean? They've just been out of sight, out of mind, and that was a major mistake. Because things like this tomato, what I was worried about was like rabbits eating it and stuff like that. So maybe for a week, it would have been cool to have the cover on, but then take it off so that I could actually see the garden beds. And somewhat of a similar story here. We do have the kale in the back. We have a little tomato plant growing up here, and another one right here. And we also have this. It was a tomato, and I'm not sure now looking at that fennel or whatever that was, that this might not be, I mean, they're related, but that looks to be, no, this is that fennel as well. There might be a tomato in here, but I don't think. I'm gonna have to do some chopping and see, because these leaves look similar to a tomato. Well, let's look at this other one. Yeah, so these are the same plant, they're growing the same, but I'll double check. Maybe I can see some more flowers on that other one, because this fennel, whatever it is, flowers like that. Tomato obviously flowers differently. We'll see. Shout out if you see any flowers. I don't see any. So the best bed was this one, where I could see every day, and you can see how similar the leaves are. These are just bigger, but the flowers obviously let you know that it's a tomato. So we'll get tomatoes out of here. There might be peppers or beans coming out of this, and I don't know what that is. I'll have to Google that one. But overall, not really a great turnout. We'll get some tomatoes, I think, from a couple of them, and we do have the plantain as well. But I think next year we got to figure out a way other than just covering those with these sheets, or I need to be on a better schedule, be better about actually going through and managing the growth of the plantain and any other weeds that want to come up. So my little experiment here when trying to maximize, I don't know, the use of annuals and perennials and try and get them like covered up so it'd be like minimal upkeep is not working out quite the way I wanted it to. But I think we can do a little bit better than that. For one, I need to identify what I'm actually planting. This year was kind of a hodgepodge of whatever plants we can get from Rural King, and I really wasn't interested in growing any vegetables. We're trying to expand this nursery and get a whole bunch of, you know, get the chickens and the guineas sorted and all that stuff. So this was definitely a low priority. However, we'll get some tomatoes out of here. And other than this video, I really haven't spent any more time on it. So let me give you an overview real quick, because we have other things that are grown in here that don't require so much human interaction. The first example is honeyberries. Perennial bushes. They are honeysuckle. They're edible honeysuckle. They're all pretty much done fruiting. They started fruiting. Oh, look at that. Look at that big guy. Man, that looks delicious. So this bush and this bush have been growing fruit for most of May, basically, and obviously into June. And we have some of that stuff growing up and through, but it's not taking out the bush like it took out some of my tomatoes. We come around here, here's another honeyberry. I think those three are all the same variety. I don't see any fruit on that one. And then we have whatever that plant was. Then we have our Egyptian walking onions, which we've been eating on, and we've been planting them out. So that's been a great food source. We also have a chokeberry or a aronia berry. We don't eat these, and this one hasn't fruited yet, but they'll be good for the birds. So the other thing we have a lot of is actually a lot of strawberries. We just got a little corner patch here, and it's been battling the plantain and hasn't, I mean, it's produced some, but not too much. We could do well to clean out some of the plantain and let that, I think this is ever-bearing strawberry, so it's not like leaping across. It's not like a June-bearing where it'll try to spread. Because this type over here is a June-bearing, as I get out of the shadow here. And this one was originally planted over here, and it's been leaping across. Now it's made all its way over here. So we get a lot of strawberries from that. And of course we have a pretty significant asparagus patch. So even though, oh, there's some more strawberries. So even though Perhaps this wasn't the best idea. I should have had those covers off, or at least spent time once a week to come through and just kind of minimize that stuff. And if I'd put tags on whatever I had, I would have known exactly what I was doing. But we got lettuce, we got tomatoes, we might have some peppers, maybe will kind of pop up. We've also been snacking on honeyberries, and we got some kale going. So perhaps that wasn't the amazing video I thought I was going to come out here, take those little covers off and go, hey, this is how you do it, all you got to do is this. And yeah, it hasn't. We got to spend more time in our annual veggie beds, especially if we start off and there's already thistle and plantain growing in there, because those are going to grow extremely fast and you might lose your plants. So I hope everybody else's veggie beds are doing better than mine. Kind of a ho-hum kind of day, but we still have a lot of things that are growing on here. I guess that's the proper way growing on here. We still have the chickens behind us, and they're very happy. They got all their new bales of straw, and we're seeing a lot of apple trees and pear trees and peach trees putting on a lot of growth this year. So in the coming seasons, we won't have to rely so much on the tomato plants and the pepper plants. We'll just be able to eat cherries and hascaps and everything else. So thank you again for watching. You got to keep an eye on these birdies. All right, thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.